Former Vice President Mike Pence sat down for an exclusive interview Tuesday with CBS News chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa. Pence discussed the classified documents found in Biden's old office, the crisis at the southern border, as well as his potential run for the presidency in 2024. The interview was part of Pence's tour for his book, So Help Me God. Robert Costa joins me now from the Villages, Florida. Bob, in the interview, Mike Pence said that he did not approve of the way the Justice Department handled the documents found at President Biden's former office or how they were handled at Mar-a-Lago. Let's listen to what he said.
But now to see classified documents found as having been in the possession of the president who was a former vice president and being treated differently, it just suggests to me, once again, that last summer was an overreach. But the kind of double standard that we see being practiced by the Biden administration in the wake of this incident in the Justice Department, I think is exactly what undermines public confidence in our justice system.
So that answer obviously overlooks the distinction between the Biden turning his materials over voluntarily while Donald Trump did not. What more can you tell us about that exchange?
We had a further exchange, and we'll put more of that up soon at CBSNews.com in our programming. And I pushed Pence on that exact point, John, about how this is an episode where the president's documents at the Penn Biden Center were found to be marked as classified. The president's lawyers turned them over. And this is not an incident or episode that's entirely comparable to what happened with former President Trump. I did ask Pence, does he believe a special counsel needs to be appointed? And he said again and again that he would like to see equal treatment. Didn't give a specific answer on exactly what he would like to see.
And you also pressed the vice president about whether he had finally made a decision to run for president in 2024. Let's listen to what Mike Pence said.
In the months ahead, I'm just going to be listening to the American people. And I believe that, as President Reagan said, the American people have a funny way of letting you know if they want you to run for president.
This is a familiar dance, Bob, but why hasn't Pence announced his run for the presidency yet?
It's intriguing, John, that Pence and so many other possible rivals of Trump in the 2024 race are taking their time. I said to Pence, you've said for months that you were going to talk to your family over the holidays and then make a decision. Well, the holidays are over. It's now January of 2023. And he said he is going to listen to the Republican voters for the next few months, continue to see if he has space in the Republican Party to run, whether it's former Vice President Pence or Governor DeSantis representing Florida here or former President Trump. They see a Republican Party that's fluid. Trump got in early. He wants to consolidate his power inside the Republican Party. But no one seems eager, including Pence in this interview today, to get into the arena with Trump at this stage and take a punch day in, day out. They would like to see the race play out at a bit of a slower pace.
Now, Bob, if you were going to listen to Republican voters, the Villages in Florida is probably one of the best places to go. Remind viewers what the Villages are and what was the reception there for Mike Pence.
The Villages is an area near Orlando, Florida, and it's a political hotspot for Republican presidential contenders, a vote-rich area. So many people come down to the Villages to live, to retire. Many of them are Trump supporters. You go around the Villages, you still see Make America Great Again signs, Trump 2020, Trump 2024 signs all over the place. And so Pence is coming into an area that he knows is a haven for Trump's support, but he wants to start to see if he has support as well in those areas. Continues to talk about the Trump-Pence administration in his book talk here for his memoir, So Help Me God.
So, Bob, you mentioned the Republican Party is quite fluid at this moment. What, in the old days, we would have asked what lane Mike Pence occupies. What lane does he have if he decides to run in the Republican Party?
He is someone who has a deep conservative track record. You look at his experience in the House of Representatives. He was formerly a member of House leadership, former chairman of the Conservative Republican Study Committee. He has built a base beyond just his time with Trump and the vice presidency, with conservative institutions in Washington, with conservative activists. So in a sense, what we see from Pence in this political moment is someone who's not just going back to the Trump well and the Trump voter, but going back to the well he has built in 4 decades as he's built a career, really going back to the 1980s, 1990 race for the U.S. House. He wants to reestablish his ties with the conservative movement as he also tries to test whether he can have support in that Trump coalition.
It'll be a fascinating thing to watch. Robert Costa, thanks so much.